Something is shifting in the unseen realm, and deep within the chambers of your knowing, you have already felt it. That quiet trembling beneath the surface of ordinary days. That strange electricity humming through the silence where their name once lived. The universe does not move without reason. Energy does not gather without purpose. And what you are feeling right now, in this precise and sacred moment, is not imagination. It is not longing mistaken for intuition. It is the unmistakable pulse of something ancient and enormous preparing to arrive. Write "I'm ready" in the comments below if you can feel it too. Carl Jung once observed that the most important events in a person's life are not those that happen on the surface, but those that occur in the invisible depths where consciousness and mystery intersect. You have been living on the surface. You have been watching the calendar, watching the silence, watching the door that has not opened. But beneath all of that visible stillness, something has been moving with quiet and relentless determination toward you. What has been stuck is about to move. What has been frozen in the long winter of distance and pride is beginning imperceptibly to thaw. There is a law in the energetic architecture of the universe that states no genuine connection, once forged in the fires of real feeling, can remain dormant forever. The soul that is bound to yours by threads of synchronicity and sacred contract does not simply disappear into the silence. It waits, it wrestles, it transforms, and that transformation is reaching its conclusion. The storm you have sensed gathering at the edges of your daily life is not a storm of destruction. It is the kind that clears the air after too long a season of stagnation, the kind that returns color to a landscape grown pale with waiting. You have endured the stillness. You have carried the uncertainty with a dignity that the universe itself has witnessed. Now at last, the atmosphere is changing. The pressure is building. And what is coming will not arrive quietly. You cannot see what is happening inside them, but the collective unconscious, that vast and borderless ocean of shared human experience that Jung described as the foundation beneath every individual mind, carries the signal of their unraveling directly to you. This is why you have been restless without explanation. This is why you have woken in the early hours with their presence, so vivid it feels like breath in the room. Their inner world is in the final stages of a collapse they can no longer manage, contain, or deny. They have reached their limit. Understand what this means, because it is not a small thing. Every wall a person builds around their heart required tremendous effort to construct. Stone by stone, silence by silence, they assembled a fortress against feeling, against vulnerability, against the terrifying possibility of needing someone so completely that their absence becomes unbearable. And for a time, that fortress held. For a time, the distance felt manageable, the silence felt like safety, the suppression of feeling felt like wisdom. But the soul is not fooled by architecture. The soul knows what it wants, and it possesses a patience that the ego, with all its noise and defensiveness, simply cannot outlast. They have been fighting their own depths for longer than you know. They have been waging a private war between the version of themselves that chose pride and the version of themselves that chose love. And the outcome of that war is now becoming undeniably clear. Pride is finally losing the battle. What you are witnessing, from your position of distance and unknowing, is the slow and irreversible dissolution of every defense they raised between themselves and their truth. The armor is cracking. The carefully maintained narrative, the one in which they were fine, in which the separation was reasonable, in which moving forward without you was possible, is no longer sustainable. The story they told themselves is collapsing, and beneath it is something raw and real and entirely unable to pretend anymore. They are not at peace. They have not moved on. They have been living at the edge of a decision they have been too terrified to make. And that terror is giving way, at last, to something fiercer, something truer, something that refuses to be silent any longer. There is something forming in their mind, not a whim, not an impulse born of a lonely evening and fading resolve, but something they have been rehearsing in the private theater of their imagination for longer than they would ever admit. Something deliberate, something that will require them to step entirely outside the version of themselves they have been performing for the world, and stand exposed in the one truth they have been circling for all this time. Do not mistake this for another text in the middle of the night. Do not mistake it for a reaction to a photograph, a casual comment on something you shared, a breadcrumb thrown from a safe and uncommitted distance. What they are building courage for is none of those things. What they are preparing is something real, something undeniable, something that carries the full and irreversible weight of a person who has finally stopped protecting themselves and started choosing something larger than their fear. They are working up the courage for something that will require them to be completely vulnerable. Jung understood that genuine transformation is never announced in advance. It does not send warning letters or appear in increments that allow the ego time to retreat. Genuine transformation erupts from the place where a person has finally exhausted every available alternative to the truth. And that is precisely where they stand right now. Not at the beginning of another period of silence, but at the end of every silence they have ever used to avoid this moment. The action they are preparing is not born from strategy. It is not calculated to achieve a particular response from you or to test whether you are still available, still waiting, still tender enough to receive a half measure. That chapter is closed. What is being built inside them now is born from something far more primal and far more unstoppable than tactics. It is born from the terrifying recognition that losing you permanently is more unbearable than the vulnerability required to prevent it. An action that requires genuine surrender. An action that admits, without deflection or qualification, everything they have denied and minimized and buried. An action that places their truth directly in front of you and asks for nothing in return except the grace of being truly seen. This is the weight of what is forming. This is what the silence has been concealing. Not absence, not indifference, not the slow fade of feeling, but a gathering of everything they are, pointed entirely in your direction, preparing for the one act of courage that changes everything. Timing in the spiritual architecture of human connection is never accidental, never arbitrary, and never without the invisible signature of divine ordering. The question that haunts you, why now, after all this silence, after all this distance, carries within it an answer that is both simpler and more profound than the rational mind wishes to accept. There was something that had to happen first. There was a moment that had to occur, a specific, crystalline instant in which the reality of their situation became impossible to soften, rationalize, or endure. Something happened to them recently. Something that rearranged the interior landscape in a way that cannot be undone. Perhaps they saw you moving forward, and the sight of your life continuing without them introduced a terror so acute, so viscerally real, that every comfortable assumption they had been living inside collapsed in a single moment. The image of you choosing your own wholeness over the waiting, choosing your own expansion over the contraction of undefined hope, that image entered them like light entering a room that has been sealed for too long, and nothing in the room looks the same in that light. Or perhaps they reached the bottom of something. Perhaps they arrived at the place where all the distractions, all the distance, all the convincing themselves that they were fine, the place where all of that simply ran out. Rock bottom is not a dramatic moment in every story. Sometimes it is a quiet Tuesday, a silent apartment, an ordinary moment in which the weight of what they have been carrying finally becomes heavier than their pride. Either way, a catalyst arrived. Either way, something shifted from abstract to urgent, from eventual to now. The concept of synchronicity, as Jung described it, the meaningful convergence of outer events and inner readiness, is precisely what has been occurring in their life. The universe does not force transformation. It arranges circumstances until the soul has no remaining argument against its own becoming, and the circumstances of their life have been arranging themselves with quiet and purposeful insistence toward exactly this moment. They have been given a glimpse of the future without you, and that glimpse, more than anything that came before it, has made what they feel undeniable, and what they must do absolutely clear. You cannot meet love with an unhealed heart. This is not a poetic sentiment. It is a law of the psyche as precise and immovable as any law governing the physical world. And understanding this is the key to understanding why the silence stretched as long as it did, why the distance felt so absolute, why someone capable of feeling what they feel for you was nonetheless unable to act upon it. Before they could come back to you, they had to go somewhere far more difficult and far more necessary than any physical destination. They had to descend into themselves. Jung named this territory the shadow, the vast interior landscape of everything a person has refused to examine, refused to claim, refused to integrate into their conscious understanding of who they are. Every fear they denied, every wound they papered over with performance, every version of themselves they buried because it did not align with the image they needed others to see. The shadow holds all of it, and it demands, eventually and without negotiation, to be faced. They had to face their demons before they could face you. This is what has been happening beneath the surface of the silence you have been enduring. Not indifference, not the fading of feeling, but the grinding, unglamorous, necessary labor of a person confronting the parts of themselves they built the distance to avoid. The avoidance. The fear of abandonment that disguised itself as independence. The need for control that disguised itself as carefulness. The love they were afraid of because loving completely meant losing completely, and they were not yet equipped for that risk. That equipment is now being assembled. If you have been drawn to this channel, to these words, to this specific and searching understanding of the soul's journey, that draw is itself a form of synchronicity. The universe directs attention toward what is relevant, and you are here because something within you recognizes the truth of what is unfolding. Subscribe now and remain present for every chapter of this journey, because what is unfolding in the energetic realm around your connection is not a single message, but an ongoing revelation, and each layer will carry you deeper into the truth of what is coming. The shadow work is nearly complete. The transformation is nearly finished, and love, integrating itself fully at last, is nearly ready. The mind naturally demands specifics. It wants coordinates, a calendar, a clear and legible map of what is coming. But the soul speaks in possibilities, in the evocative language of imagery and resonance. And so let the mind be still for a moment while something deeper in you receives what follows, not as information, but as recognition. It might be a letter, not a message composed in haste on a glowing screen in the privacy of midnight, but something deliberate, something written and rewritten, something that carries in every sentence the evidence of a person who chose their words as though each one mattered enormously, because to them it did. There is something about the act of writing that strips away the performance and leaves only the essential truth, and what they have to say to you has been living in that essential register for a very long time. It might be a call, the sound of a voice that chose, consciously and deliberately, to cross the silence rather than maintain it, a voice that does not open with explanation or defense, but simply with the weight of everything that has been waiting to be spoken. Or it might be something more immediate, more undeniable than either of these, the specific gravity of a person who has decided that no form of communication at a distance will carry the full truth of what they feel, and so they appear, in person, present, real, words they have never said, vulnerability they have never shown, an apology that does not qualify itself, that does not end with a but, that does not arrive tangled in the same avoidance it is supposed to address, a confession that names clearly and completely exactly what you have meant to them and exactly what the silence has cost, a plea perhaps, the stripped and extraordinary image of a person who has surrendered the ego's insistence on composure and is simply asking for the chance to do this differently, to show up as the version of themselves they have been becoming in the long darkness of your absence. Whatever form it takes, it will be unmistakable. It will carry a frequency you have never received from them before, because it will be delivered from a depth they have never accessed before. You will know at the moment it arrives. There will be no room for doubt. Do not underestimate what this costs them. The action they are preparing is not being taken from a position of certainty, not from the comfortable elevation of someone who has been assured of their reception. not from the safety of knowing in advance that what they bring will be welcomed. They are walking toward you with no guarantee whatsoever of what awaits them. They are making the one move that the ego spends an entire lifetime learning to avoid, the move that exposes everything and protects nothing. Their pride has been the most elaborate and most costly construction of their emotional life. It has governed decisions, terminated conversations, sustained the silence, and justified every retreat from the vulnerability that genuine intimacy requires. To set it down, not to misplace it, not to temporarily suppress it, but to genuinely and permanently release it in the context of what they feel for you, is an act of psychological enormity that should not be casually observed. This is not a breadcrumb. This is not a calculated risk assessment. This is the whole loaf. They know they might be rejected. They have run this possibility through their mind more times than you can conceive, the version in which they arrive with their truth, and you have moved beyond them. The version in which your silence is the mirror of their own returned. The version in which what they are bringing arrives too late to matter. They have lived in the shadow of these possibilities, and they are choosing to act anyway. Because the alternative, the continuation of a life in which they never try, in which they protect themselves so thoroughly they lose you by default, has finally become the more unbearable risk. Their terror and their courage are not opposites in this moment. They are the same force. The depth of the fear is the exact measure of the depth of the feeling, and what you are about to witness is a person for whom the love has simply grown larger than the fear, until the fear, though real and present, no longer has the authority to stop what the love demands. They know they might lose everything, and they are doing it anyway. This is the quality of what is moving toward you, not convenience, not strategy, not a person who has run out of other options and is returning to you by default, but a person who has looked directly at the full cost of this moment and decided, with open eyes and a surrender heart, that you are worth every terrifying cent of it. The soul that has been through the fire of genuine transformation does not arrive the same way it left. And one of the most important gifts you can give yourself in this unfolding is the clarity to distinguish between what is real and what is the old pattern wearing new language. You have earned that clarity. You have paid for it with the currency of waiting and wondering and learning in the long school of their absence, exactly what you deserve. Real change does not arrive as a performance. It does not speak loudly about how much it has changed. It does not require you to simply take its word for what is different. It demonstrates the difference through the quality of its presence, through the consistency of its action in moments that are not being observed, through the specific and unglamorous work of showing up in ways that cost something, day after ordinary day. Real change speaks through consistent action, not through words alone. Watch for the quality of their listening. A person who has done genuine interior work no longer needs to make every conversation about the management of their own discomfort. They become capable of receiving you, truly receiving you, without deflection, without defensiveness, without the urgent need to redirect the conversation toward their own feelings the moment yours become inconvenient. That capacity for presence is the mark of someone who has genuinely changed. Watch for the absence of conditions. Real return does not arrive with a list of adjustments you must make before it can be offered fully. Real return places its truth in front of you without requiring you to reshape yourself around its comfort. Watch for follow-through. The architecture of real change is built in the space between promises and the moments that test them, and what they do in those moments will tell you everything the words cannot. If you are waiting for exactly this, not the performance of return but the substance of it, not the language of change but the living proof of it, share this now with someone else who is waiting for real, not games, because they deserve to know that what they are holding out for is not idealism but wisdom. The real thing is distinguishable, and you are now equipped to recognize it. This is the moment in which the script of the collective unconscious typically offers you only two roles, the one who forgives or the one who refuses, as though the full complexity of what you are and what you have endured could be reduced to a binary. It cannot. And one of the most profound truths that the Jungian understanding of the psyche offers is this: the power in any relational dynamic does not belong to the one who acts first. It belongs to the one who acts from wholeness. You are not obligated to accept. Let that settle into every part of you that has been told, explicitly or subtly, that devotion means being perpetually available. That love means having no threshold. That spiritual connection means surrendering to summit entirely. The soul contract that binds you to this person is not a contract of self-erasure. It is a contract of mutual growth, and growth, real growth, always preserves the sovereignty of both individuals within it. You are allowed to say not yet. You are allowed to say not ever. You are allowed to receive what is coming and hold it carefully in your hands while you determine, from the quiet authority of your own healed center, whether it carries what you actually need or only what you have been conditioned to accept. And equally, with the same wholeness, you are allowed to forgive. Not the forgiveness that minimizes what happened, not the forgiveness that erases the past to make the present more comfortable, but the large and considered forgiveness of a person who has genuinely processed the wound and arrived at a place where choosing again feels not like surrender, but like wisdom. Both are valid. The universe does not honor one choice over the other. What the universe honors, always and without exception, is the choice made from the deepest truth of who you are, not the choice made from fear, not the choice made from loneliness, not the choice made from the old pattern's familiar gravity, but the choice made from the center of your own becoming. This moment belongs to you. The power in it is yours. What arrives from them is significant, but what you choose in response to it is the measure of everything this journey has been teaching you. You are the one who decides. This is not years away. The distance between where you stand right now and the moment of their arrival is not measured in seasons of further waiting, in the slow erosion of hope across another long and unanswered stretch of time. What is moving toward you has momentum now, the kind of momentum that does not reverse, does not pause indefinitely, does not allow the ego the luxury of another extended retreat into comfortable avoidance. What has been set in motion in the unseen realm is completing its arc, and the arc is bending, with increasing and unmistakable velocity, toward you. Watch the signs that the energetic field places in your path as signals of the closing distance. The synchronicities that carry their specific frequency, a song arriving at an improbable moment, a word or image appearing with the particular insistence of something that refuses to be accidental, a dream in which the emotional tone carries more information than the narrative, a sudden and inexplicable lifting of the heaviness you have grown accustomed to carrying. These are not projections of wishful thinking. These are the language the universe speaks when it is closing in on a moment it has been preparing. When you see the synchronicity that carries their signature, know that the preparation is nearly finished. Know that what has been building in them and what has been shifting in the invisible architecture of your shared connection is reaching the moment of expression. The walls are crumbling in real time. The courage they have been assembling is nearly ready to be deployed. There is a concept in the mirror effect of twin flame and soul contract dynamics, the understanding that what occurs internally in one connected individual reverberates outward into the energetic field shared between them. Your own healing, your own expanding wholeness, your own refusal to collapse in the waiting. All of this has been part of what has been moving them toward this moment. You did not simply endure the silence. You transformed within it, and that transformation has been felt. The unexpected is coming. It is closer than the mind believes, and exactly as significant as the soul has always known. The question is no longer whether it will arrive. That answer has already been written in the energetic record of everything you two are to each other. The only question remaining is the one that belongs entirely to you. Are you ready to receive it?